Hi there. First of all, let me just apologize up front to Dr. D and everyone else. I am not real certain that there's any subject that I could speak on for an hour, honestly. Uh, my brain just doesn't have that capacity. The other thing is my thoughts and ideas on this may seem a little bit indifferent or broad or generic, and I don't mean them to be. I just kind of come from the school of, you know, to each his own, and everybody kind of mind their own business and stay out of other people's. And that's kind of how I was raised. And then finally, I'm sure I'm going to say something that's going to step on somebody's toes, and I'm apologizing ahead of time because not my intent. So, having said that, I will try to answer these questions as openly and honestly as I can, and I will very much look forward to hearing your feedback because I would dare to say that this is an area that I'm just not real bright in. So we'll leave it at that. Describe your racial and or ethnic identity. I'm white, mostly German heritage. But other than that, that's it. What does it mean to you? I don't know, to be honest with you. I've been asked in casual conversations and in job interviews, that kind of thing, to tell us about yourself. And the color of my skin never crossed my mind as being something that I felt like I needed to mention that it had any bearing on anything. So I don't know, but I feel sure by the end of this class I'll have a better idea of something I'm probably overlooking in regards to that. What role do you think it plays in your total identity and why? I I don't know. I feel sure that I probably have not experienced some of the struggles and bias that people of other ethnicities have. Um, you know, but other than that, I don't know. All through school, we had a lot of Hispanic Americans, African Americans, and we all got along. And there wasn't any problems. So I'll get into that more later. In your experience, what role do you feel discrimination plays in the world today? Is this a real problem in 2017? Yes, it does exist today. Yes, it is a problem. Um, but I think it's important to understand that there are people in this world you will never change their mind about things like this. Um, and in fact, arguing with them just excites them. It's great. But maybe there has been a little bit of improvement overall, but it absolutely still exists. And part of the problem I feel like is the nonstop information and media coverage that we are exposed to without knowing if both sides of the story are being shown. Um, I don't know. Things are just so different today. But yes, it does exist. Um, do you feel that the LBGTQIA community has adequate rights in the U.S. today? I honestly don't know. Um, I know what most of these terms mean. I always thought that queer was a derogatory term, to be honest with you. I can guess what asexual is, but intersex I'm not familiar with, but I'm sure I will be by the end of the class. Um, Again, no, and I feel sure that people are um, discriminating against this particular population for a number of reasons. Um, there's a religious viewpoint. There is actually, I think, an economic viewpoint. I mean, some states are allowing same-sex marriages. That's fine. But I think a lot of businesses are looking at, okay, now look, we've got to pay insurance costs for a spouse, that before we didn't have to consider. So, how about women? Absolutely. I feel like there's still a lot of cases where women are doing the same jobs as men and getting paid less. And I would love to hear somebody try to intelligently explain the reason for that. People of color. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's a fear factor and lack of education on these people's part that are doing the discriminating. People with disabilities, people with psychiatric disabilities. Yes, again, a fear factor, a liability concern from an employment standpoint. being fearful of saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing. Yes, it's true. People who are other faith than Christianity, absolutely. Especially, I mean, think about how much media coverage the Muslim faith is getting due to the actions of a few. Is that fair? No, not fair. People who are poor, yes, and I think that discrimination is lack in access of services. So, yes, and discrimination affects all of these populations. How prepared do you feel today in this moment to work with people with vastly different backgrounds than your own? I feel pretty confident. I really try to take each situation differently, but I feel like I'm respectful of all people. And now, what I am looking forward to is understanding the subtle differences in the cultures that I am not aware of, like I had written in my introduction about, that could affect how I go through the process with them. So, I mean, overall, I would say I'm confident, but I know that I have a lot to learn, and that's why I'm really looking forward to this. So, I'll continue with the next questions on a separate video.